There comes a time not marked by calendars or clocks when the soul leans in and whispers, enough. Not in frustration, not in surrender to struggle, but in sacred remembrance. Enough of the searching, enough of the proving, enough of running in circles through illusions of lack, hoping to find in the world what was never missing within. You were not born to chase the light, you are the light. You were not created to gather wholeness like scattered puzzle pieces across the landscape of achievement. You arrived whole. From the first breath to this very moment, there has never been anything incomplete about you. The stars did not forget to give you something. The divine did not withhold your worth. You already have everything you need. But oh, how easily we forget, how quickly we trade the serenity of being for the striving of becoming. We live in a world that rewards noise, celebrates speed, worships improvement, but the soul, the eternal you, speaks only in silence and waits patiently in the stillness you avoid. You see, the essence of your being is not a project to be managed or a problem to be solved. It is not found in resumes or reflected in social mirrors. Your worth is not in your resume or your reputation. It is in your breath, in the sacred rhythm of your heartbeat, in the sheer miracle that you are here, now, alive. The Tao says, when you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. And that is not poetry, it is a map home. Every spiritual tradition, every whisper of wisdom across centuries points to the same quiet truth. You are already enough. Not someday, not once you fixed yourself. Now, this moment, the one you are living and perhaps resisting, it is already complete, not because it is perfect by the mind's standards, but because it is real. And reality, raw and unvarnished, is the only gateway to peace. The ego protests, it measures, compares, defends. It thrives in the illusion of not yet smart enough, not yet successful enough, not yet healed. And so it keeps you climbing ladders that lean against hollow walls. But the soul knows no such lack. The soul is not interested in your image. It knows only essence, and your essence is light. It is love. It is wholeness cloaked in skin, disguised as a seeker. What would it feel like to stop? Not to give up, but to drop the facade, the frantic grasping, the exhausting charade of needing to be more. What would it feel like to sit in your own being and call it sacred, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are? Healing begins there. Awakening begins there. Freedom begins there. You do not need to deserve your own life. You only need to inhabit it. To feel the breath as it moves through you like wind through ancient trees. To notice the stillness between your thoughts, that quiet space that has never judged you, never demanded anything from you, and yet has always held you. That space is God. That space is home. Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Not ahead of you, not above you, within. And within is not a metaphor, it is literal. It is the radiant field of presence that exists beneath every fear, every label, every mask. The moment you turn inward with reverence instead of resistance, you will find what you've been aching for, not as an answer, but as a presence. This isn't about abandoning the world. It's about no longer asking the world to confirm your sacredness. The universe did not place you here as a mistake. You are not a cosmic afterthought. You are an expression of the infinite, a localized drop of the divine, pretending for a little while to be separate, only so that you might remember what it feels like to return. And oh, how sweet the return is. Not a grand event, not a dramatic awakening, just a soft remembering. A deep breath, a sudden stillness, a moment where your heart says, I don't need to search anymore. And in that instant, you remember that the love you sought was your own. The peace you chased was resting beneath your resistance. The joy you believed was missing was simply waiting for your permission. This moment is not lacking, it is whole. And so are you. Let the world swirl if it must. Let others chase if they need. You are invited to stop, to come home, to sit in the eternal enoughness of your own presence, to live not from lack but from love, to move not out of fear but from fullness. You already have everything you need, everything to love, everything to heal, everything to create, to rise, to awaken, and it has always been this way. Let us go deeper now. Then breathe with me now, not as an act of survival but as an act of remembrance. Let this next inhale carry not just air but the memory of your divine origin. Let it sweep gently through every story you've told yourself about what you lack, and let the exhale wash it all clean. You are not your doubts. You are not your delays. You are the presence beneath them, the unchanging field in which they briefly appear and dissolve. And in that space, untouched by time, untouched by judgment, you will find the infinite still breathing through you. There is a place within you where nothing ever broke, a place untouched by rejection, unbent by failure, unstained by the past. This place does not need healing, it is the healing. It does not need light, it is the source of light. It cannot be improved, only accessed. And every time you pause, truly pause, you step closer to it, not with effort, but with surrender. Most of what you've been calling growth has been a rehearsal. Rehearsing who to be, rehearsing how to sound, rehearsing worth like a script that only works if the world claps at the end. But true growth is not performance, it is peeling away. It is the sacred act of becoming less so that your essence can become more. It is unlearning the noise of the world so you can hear again the music of your soul. Have you noticed how nature never apologizes for its rhythm? The moon never rushes. The tides never try to impress. A tree does not strive to be taller by dawn, and yet everything blooms in divine time. Everything flourishes by surrendering to what it is. You are not designed to be an exception. You too are part of this great rhythm. You too are guided by an intelligence far deeper than your fears. Trust it. Trust that where you are is not a mistake, but a message. You are not late. You are not broken. You are not lagging behind some invisible timeline carved into the sky by other people's expectations. You are precisely where the unfolding of your soul needs you to be. The pauses are sacred. The slowness is sacred. Even the confusion has its place, for it teaches you to listen to a voice deeper than thought. There is no need to rush through pain. There is no spiritual trophy for speed. Some truths can only be heard in the echo of silence after a heartbreak. Some light can only be seen through the eyes that have known darkness and chosen to see anyway. Do not despise your seasons. Even winter holds wisdom. Even stillness is a seed. If the mind is a map, then the heart is the compass, and the soul is the destination. The mind will always ask, what's next? But the soul asks, what's real? And what's real is not what changes, it's what remains. It's the part of you that was there before the striving began and will remain long after it ends. That part needs no improvement, only your attention. When you turn toward yourself with tenderness rather than critique, you begin to see the sacred not just within you, but everywhere. The same breath that animates your body moves the leaves in the wind. The same presence that holds your grief holds the stars. There is no separation except the one you've been taught to believe. And that belief has run its course. You are not here to earn a place in the universe. You are already woven into its fabric. You are not an afterthought. You are an essential thread in the divine tapestry, without which something sacred would be missing. So walk gently, not because you are fragile, but because you are sacred. The ego will always tell you to do more, to climb faster, to become someone new. But the soul speaks only one sentence, again and again, like a loving chant echoing through the cathedral of your being. Return to what you are, not what you could be, not what others need, but what you are in the raw, luminous stillness of your presence. You are not here to perform your worth. You are here to remember it. But now you know better. Now you are learning that your pain was not punishment, it was preparation, a holy refinement. The fire that did not come to burn you down, but to melt away what was never truly yours to begin with. The stories, the personas, the armor you wore like a second skin, they were never who you truly were. And now, slowly, gently, they are falling away. This is the quiet resurrection, the rising not into something new, but into something true. Not a reinvention, but a revelation. And this rising has no parade, no spotlight, no audience. Just breath, just presence. Just the soft return to your original self, the one that has always been whole, even when the world told you otherwise. Do you remember who you were before the world taught you to doubt yourself? Before you were praised for being useful and punished for being still? That child of light is still here, unbruised by the years. That spark has never dimmed, only been buried. But like seeds in winter, it has waited patiently, silently, for the warmth of your own attention to awaken it again. The truth is, you are not here to fix yourself. There is nothing broken in the sacred design of your being. You are here to shed, to soften, to remember. To live in such deep alignment with your soul that even your shadow becomes sacred, even your fears become fuel for awakening. There is nothing you need to erase, only something you need to embrace. When you look within and finally stop editing what you find, you will meet the one who has always been watching, always been waiting, the silent witness behind the noise. And when you look into the eyes of that inner presence, you will see nothing but unconditional love, not approval, not permission, not praise for progress, just love, still, constant, eternal. The world may never fully understand you. It's not supposed to. You were not born to be explained. You were born to be experienced, to be lived, to be known from the inside out. The deepest truths do not come with validation, they come with liberation. They come with the sudden release of needing anything outside of you to prove what your soul has always known. So when you feel the old doubts rise, let them, but let them pass too. Do not cling to them like anchors. You are no longer bound by the gravity of who you were taught to be. You are the sky, not the weather. You are the light, not the lampshade. You are the presence, not the performance. And this presence, this radiant, undivided awareness is where your true power lives. It's the power that doesn't dominate, doesn't control, doesn't compete. It simply is. And its presence alone can soften rooms, open hearts, and silence fear not through force, but through authenticity, through alignment. Because when you are aligned with who you are, the world responds differently. Not because the world has changed, but because you are no longer negotiating your value with it. You are no longer bartering your peace for praise. You are no longer asking for permission to be whole. You already are. You already have everything you need. And now that you remember even just a little, the path ahead becomes sacred, not because it's clear, but because you now walk it in truth. You no longer need guarantees. You no longer need a destination. The walk itself is holy. Every step a devotion, every breath a prayer, every encounter an echo of the divine reminding you this is it, this is the moment, this is the life. And it is enough. ChatGPT Danoi. Then breathe again into this sacred now and let the silence between your thoughts speak its ancient wisdom. For the more you return to this moment, the more you come to see that nothing was ever missing, only misplaced attention, only forgotten truths buried beneath the noise of trying. There is a calm beneath the waves, a stillness beneath every surge of emotion, and that stillness is you. Not the thoughts, not the feelings, not the stories, but the unchanging awareness in which they all arise and dissolve. You are the quiet center in a spinning world, the deep river that flows beneath the surface currents of circumstance. And when you dwell in that place, not occasionally but continually, not as an escape, but as your foundation life begins to unfold differently. You respond rather than react. You allow rather than control. You trust rather than resist. And slowly the frantic dance of doing softens into the sacred art of being. Being does not mean passivity, it means presence. It means your actions are no longer born of lack but of overflow. Your words no longer seek validation, they are rooted in truth. You no longer chase peace, you carry it. And that peace becomes your power because it is not dependent on anything outside you. It cannot be taken or shaken. It arises from a well so deep, even the winds of the world cannot touch it. You do not need more time. You need more awareness of the time you already have. You do not need a better self. You need to see the self that has always been there beneath the striving. The mind tells you there's always somewhere else to be. But the soul knows this is it, this breath, this step, this sacred now. When you stop measuring your life by outcomes and begin honoring it by presence, everything changes. Joy becomes available not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer requiring perfection to feel it. Gratitude becomes natural, not forced, but flowing, because your eyes have returned to the miracle of what already is. And this miracle is not some distant event. It is not tied to achievement or success. It is in the way sunlight spills through a window. It is in the laughter that bubbles up unbidden. It is in the quiet moments when you feel yourself being held, not by a person, but by life itself. The miracle is you, awake to the reality that you have never been separate from the divine. You are not a seeker in search of wholeness. You are wholeness playing the game of forgetting, only to delight in the remembering. And every time you pause, every time you return, every time you allow yourself to rest in the truth that you already have, everything you need, you dissolve another layer of illusion, another veil between you and the sacred. Let yourself soften now. Let the defenses melt. You no longer need to protect an image. You are no longer required to uphold a persona. The soul is not interested in masks. It speaks only to what is real, and it waits for you there, in that naked honesty, in that humble allowing, where nothing needs to be performed. And when you meet life from that place, undressed of ego, unclenched from the future, what rises in you is not ambition, but aliveness, not control, but communion. You begin to live not as a reaction to the world, but as a response to something deeper, something eternal, something that breathes you and beats you and knows you beyond thought. This is the great reversal, the turning of the gaze inward, the letting go of the belief that you must earn your way into sacredness. You were sacred before you had a name, before you had wounds, before the world tried to convince you that you were small. And now you remember. ChatGPT Danoi, then stay with me in this sacred remembering and let the veil continue to thin, for what you are touching now is not philosophy, it is not even belief. It is the direct experience of your own being, unencumbered by history, untouched by the world's definitions. The mind may still chatter, the world may still whirl, but something in you is still. Something in you is listening not to the noise, but to the quiet beneath it. You are not here to master the world. You are here to master your awareness of what already is. And in that awareness, you discover the miracle of enough. Enoughness is not resignation, it is reverence. It is not the absence of desire, it is the absence of grasping. To live from enough is to know that nothing outside you can complete what was never incomplete. And once you taste this enoughness, truly taste it, life begins to shimmer differently. You no longer rush into relationships hoping to be seen. You enter them already seen by yourself. You no longer work to prove your value. You create from your value. You are no longer obsessed with becoming because being has become enough. The simplest things become sacred. A breath, a touch, a moment of stillness. Nothing has changed, and yet everything has. The great irony is that everything you were told to chase peace, love, purpose was never meant to be acquired. It was meant to be uncovered. And uncovering does not require striving. It requires stillness. It requires silence. It requires the courage to stop long enough to feel the ground beneath the performance and realize it has been holding you all along. The ego fears stillness because it cannot survive there. It thrives in comparison, in chaos, in constant motion. But the soul lives in the space in between, the space between inhale and exhale, the silence between words, the pause between thoughts. That is where the truth is found, not in the noise of becoming, but in the stillness of being. So what now? What does one do after remembering such a thing? You live, but you live differently. You live not to chase moments, but to inhabit them. You no longer seek the extraordinary. You realize the ordinary was never ordinary at all. You speak less to be heard and more to connect. You love not to be loved in return, but because love has become your natural state. From this space, your life becomes art, not the kind that hangs in galleries, but the kind that is felt in presence, in patience, in peace. Every conversation becomes a canvas, every breath a brushstroke, every step a stanza in a poem being written not with effort, but with alignment. And yes, you will still feel pain. Yes, life will still bring its storms. But you will no longer be thrown from yourself when they come. You will know how to return. You will know where home is not a place, not a person, but a presence. The presence within you that never left, even when you forgot it was there. You will begin to trust the wisdom of your own life. Not the stories, not the plans, but the deeper intelligence beneath it, all the way every leaf turns toward the sun, the way rivers find the sea. You are part of that same wisdom. You don't need to figure it all out. You need only to follow the pull of truth within you and trust that it knows where it's leading. And the more you trust it, the more your outer life begins to mirror your inner stillness. You attract not because you are striving, but because you are aligned. You are no longer chasing the next thing, you are radiating the now. And the now is irresistible. The now is where God lives. But how can we be free when our hearts are entangled in yesterday's grief? How can we soar when we are anchored to moments we could not control, to wounds we never asked for, to identities forged in the fires of survival rather than the light of truth? There is a pain we rarely speak aloud, the pain of becoming someone the world accepted while abandoning the self we truly were. The child who was too tender, too wild, too different. The dreamer who spoke of stars when the world demanded ceilings. The artist who painted in silence when noise was applauded. The lover who gave freely in a world that measured everything. We buried those parts not because we wanted to, but because we were taught to. We were taught that safety lies in conformity, that value is earned by performance, that love is conditional. And so we built masks, thick ones, beautiful ones even, but oh, the weight of wearing what does not fit the soul. It presses on the spirit like chains on wings. And here is where the yearning is born, not in the desire to become more, but in the ache to remember who we were before we began editing ourselves for approval. The soul does not crave attention. It craves authenticity. It longs not to be liked, but to be liberated, not to be praised, but to be felt fully. So go there now, not to the pain, but to the place beneath it, the place where the sorrow still lives because it was never fully seen. Let it come, let it speak, let the tears rise, not as weakness, but as wisdom finally allowed to move. Your tears are not your failure. They are the river that clears the debris of forgotten truths. And as you feel them, truly feel them, without turning away, you begin to see that you are not your past. You are not the one who was left. You are not the one who was blamed. You are not the one who was told they were too much or not enough. You are the witness who carried it all, the presence who endured it, the light who survived not to remain hidden but to shine in spite of it all. Forgiveness, then, is not a favor you offer others. It is the freedom you return to yourself. Not because what happened was okay, but because carrying it has become too heavy. Because your soul knows it was never meant to be a storage place for old pain, but a sanctuary for new light. You are not obligated to keep rehearsing the stories that shrink you. You are not bound to identities that no longer breathe. There is no divine law that says you must carry guilt like a shadow or regret like a second skin. The soul only asks one thing of you now: release. Not with violence, not with force, but with love. With the tender reverence of someone laying a memory down like a child finally put to rest. Let yourself mourn not just what was done, but what was lost in the doing. The innocence, the softness, the trust. And then when you are ready, let yourself retrieve them. They are not gone. They have only been waiting for your permission to return, for your breath to soften, for your heart to open just wide enough for light to find its way back in. This is the sacred unraveling. This is the soul reclaiming its space, not by erasing the past, but by blessing it, by saying, "Thank you for what you taught me. I no longer need to wear you. I no longer need to carry you. I am free to begin again, not as a new person, but as the real one." There is a softness that settles in the soul when striving ceases, when you no longer grip life with white knuckles, but open your palms and let it flow through you. Not everything must be understood. Not every thread must be tied. Wholeness is not symmetry. It is the acceptance of your asymmetries, the embrace of your paradoxes. It is standing in your truth even when it trembles. It is saying yes to this life with all its texture and complexity, because your presence within it is what sanctifies it. You are not here to be unscarred. You are here to be unhidden, to live with such honesty that your very presence becomes permission for others to do the same. And that is more powerful than perfection. That is transformation not by force, but by alignment, not by effort, but by embodiment. When the noise of the world tries to pull you back into its whirlwind of expectations, you will know better now. You will remember that stillness is not emptiness, it is fullness without need. You will remember that peace is not something you find when all is done, it is something you choose when all is still unfolding. And you will remember that love, true love, is not something you earn, but something you already are. Let your life now become a prayer not of words, but of being. Let your breath be an offering, let your presence be your power, let your enoughness be your revolution. For you are not here to fit into the world. You are here to remind the world of something it forgot, that wholeness was never a destination. It was always the truth, hidden beneath the disguise of becoming. And now you have remembered. So walk not faster, but deeper. Speak not louder, but truer. Love not harder, but freer. The light you were searching for has always been within you. The peace you were chasing has always been beneath your feet. The divine you longed to meet has always been your reflection in moments of stillness. This is the sacred ending that is no ending at all. Only the beginning of a life lived from presence, from enoughness, from truth. You already have everything you need. And now, beloved soul, there will come a time, quiet, subtle, barely a whisper in the noise of your days, when something within you leans forward and asks, "Is this all there is?" And in that sacred pause, the soul speaks, not with thunder, but with certainty. "No, beloved, there is more, but not more to get more to remember, because you are not missing anything. You are not waiting for completion. You are not lacking a single thread of the divine tapestry that wove you into being. You already have everything you need. This is not a hopeful idea, it is a spiritual law. Just as the seed contains the tree, just as the acorn carries the oak, you carry within you the fullness of who you came here to be. Not someday, not after healing, not when the world sees your worth. Now, already, completely. But the world does not teach you this. The world teaches you to chase. It teaches you to compare, to strive, to climb invisible ladders. It teaches you that your enoughness lives in someone else's eyes, in future accomplishments, in the arms of those who validate your existence. And so you begin to forget. You begin to believe the lie that you must earn your wholeness. You begin to believe that you are a project to be fixed rather than a soul to be remembered. But the soul cannot be fixed because it is not broken. It can only be revealed. And so the journey begins not outward but inward, not into the maze of doing but into the sanctuary of being. Everything you seek, the peace, the joy, the certainty, the love, is not outside of you waiting to be attained. It is within you waiting to be recognized, waiting for you to get quiet enough, honest enough, present enough to see that you are not the seeker, you are what was sought all along. There is a still place inside you. It is not moved by external winds. It is not shaken by circumstance. It does not fear change or loss or time. That place is your home. It is the eternal spark within you that existed before your name, before your personality, before you began building an identity that the world could praise. And this home, this sacred silent space, is where everything you've ever needed lives. It is where God resides, not in temples of stone, but in temples of breath and skin and quiet surrender. The Tao Te Ching teaches us, when you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. This is not poetry. This is reality. Lack is not truth. It is perception. Scarcity is not your destiny. It is your conditioning. And every time you remember this, even for a breath, the chains begin to fall away. The ego will tell you that you must chase more, become more, prove more. But the soul says simply, be. Be what you already are. Live from the wholeness that has never left. Act not from the hunger of incompleteness, but from the overflow of inner wealth. The more you believe you need something outside of yourself, the further you drift from your center. And yet, the moment you return, the moment you pause, breathe, and remember, you see with new eyes. You see that you are not a beggar at the gates of life. You are the life itself. You are not the drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. This is the great awakening. Not the acquisition of something new, but the shedding of everything false. The letting go of every story that said you were less. The quiet reclaiming of the truth that has never stopped pulsing through your being. And that truth is this: you already have everything you need to love, to forgive, to create, to live with depth and peace and radiant presence. The question is not whether it is there. The question is whether you will trust it. Will you trust that your worth is not in what you do, but in who you are? Will you trust that your path is not behind or ahead of you, but unfolding in this very breath? Will you trust that what you feel drawn to, the dreams, the callings, the longings, are not random desires, but the voice of the divine within you calling you back to your own essence? To trust this is to be free. Free from the tyranny of not yet. Free from the burden of when I have. Oh, free from the lie of if only. And in that freedom, your life becomes a sacred unfolding. Not a race to be run, but a song to be sung. Not a mountain to conquer, but a river to flow with. Not a task to complete, but a gift to savor. You do not need to be different. You need only to be true. And the truth, the deep, eternal, unshakable truth, is that you lack nothing. The sky does not ask the birds for permission to fly. The stars do not wait for applause before they shine. And you, beautiful soul, do not need the world's validation to be worthy of your own love. You are whole. You are holy. You are already what you seek. You already have everything you need. And now you are remembering. There is a wisdom in you that has never aged, a knowing that existed long before the world taught you to doubt. It does not speak in noise or drama, but in quiet nudges, in subtle peace, in the way your heart feels soft when you stop trying. This wisdom does not need to be earned, it simply needs to be heard. You are not separate from the source that created you. You are not an echo of divinity, you are its living expression. Just as a wave cannot exist apart from the ocean, you cannot be apart from God. Even when you forget, even when you wander, even when you wrap yourself in stories of insufficiency, the truth remains you are one with all that is. And when you remember this, you no longer try to manipulate life to make yourself feel safe. You stop forcing doors open. You stop begging for signs. You stop bargaining with the universe. Instead, you begin to live from the inner wealth that has always been yours. You move not to get something, but to express something. You create not to fill a void, but to overflow. You love not to earn it, but because it is what you are made of. Every moment is sacred when you see it through the eyes of enoughness. Washing the dishes, walking through the silence of morning, listening to the rhythm of your own breath, these become acts of devotion when you realize you are not preparing for life, you are living it right now, already. The present is not a waiting room for something better, it is the treasure. It is the field where everything you have been searching for gently blooms, but you must be here to receive it. Not mentally here, not physically checking the box, but soulfully present, bare, open, surrendered. And yet how often we miss it. How often we are consumed by what is not yet, by what might go wrong, by the mind's endless demands for proof. The ego thrives on dissatisfaction. It survives by keeping you looking elsewhere. But the soul, oh, the soul, it only wants you to come home. Home to this breath, home to this heartbeat, home to the holy stillness that requires nothing from you but your being. Let yourself return. Return to the inner garden that has never stopped growing. Return to the place before your name, before your doubts, before the conditioning that told you something was missing. Return and you will see you are not the cracks, you are the light that pours through them. There is no better version of you waiting in the future. There is only a deeper version of you waiting to be lived now. You don't become more by acquiring. You become more by shedding, by releasing every layer that isn't you, by letting go of the performance, the role, the attachment. True richness does not come from what you have. It comes from how fully you inhabit yourself. And when you are full, not of things, but of presence, the universe bends to meet you there. Not because you manipulated it into doing so, but because alignment is the most natural state of being. Your life does not need more effort. It needs more allowing. It needs more trust in the divine rhythm that beats your heart and turns the stars. That rhythm is in you. You are not apart from it. You are it. You are not the separate observer. You are the expression of the one that observes all. The mystics have said for centuries, seek ye first the kingdom within, not because it's a poetic idea, but because it is the only truth. Everything you seek is a reflection of something you already carry. The love, the peace, the clarity, the purpose, it all begins when you stop looking out and start looking in. Not inward to analyze, to dissect, to fix, but inward to feel, to remember, to surrender, to dwell in the truth of your own enoughness without rushing to prove it. When you stop chasing what you already are, the chase ends. And in its place, something sacred begins a life not defined by striving, but by serenity, not built on achievement, but on alignment. You are not here to find the light. You are here to remove everything that covers it. You are not here to earn your worth. You are here to live from it. You already have everything you need. And the more you believe that, the more you see it reflected in every face, every breath, every step. Because life is not withholding from you. It is waiting for you to see clearly. And when you see clearly, you stop bargaining with reality. You stop arguing with what is. You stop resisting the moment as though your freedom lies somewhere else. You begin to soften, not because you've given up, but because you've awakened. You realize the fight was never with life, it was with your belief that you were separate from it. There is a deep peace that arises when you stop trying to escape your life and instead choose to inhabit it fully. Not the life you think you should be living, not the image you crafted for others to admire, but the life that is here, raw and honest and unpolished, exactly as it is. This is where the sacred is not in perfection, but in presence. Presence does not require that everything feel good. It only requires that you stay, that you breathe through the discomfort instead of running from it, that you feel what's true instead of numbing it, that you trust that even pain has a message not to punish you, but to open you. Every wound is a doorway, every ache a reminder, not of what you've lost, but of what wants to be remembered. The longing you feel is not lack. It is the echo of wholeness calling you back. You would not long for what wasn't already within you. You do not yearn for what you lack. You yearn for what you are. You are not meant to live in fragments. You are not here to hold your breath until everything feels safe. You are here to open, to expand, to embody the vastness that has always been your nature. And that expansion doesn't come through force, it comes through surrender. To surrender is not to give up, it is to give in to the deeper truth. To trust the ground beneath your feet, even when you cannot see the whole path. To know that you are supported, not by your control, but by the intelligence that moves the tides and grows the forests and knows exactly how to move through you too. You are not alone in this. You never have been. Every breath is a companion, every silence a guide. Every moment, no matter how ordinary, is infused with the same intelligence that births stars. And you are not separate from that. You are not less than that. You are that. And once you remember this, the idea of needing more to be whole dissolves. The chase fades. The striving quiets. And what remains is the truth you always knew, but were too distracted to hear, that everything you thought you needed was never outside of you. It was always here, waiting, constant, eternal. You do not need to find your worth. You need to stop believing the thoughts that tell you it is missing. You do not need to fix yourself. You need to love yourself deeply enough to no longer pretend you are broken. Wholeness is not something you reach. It is something you remember. It is not in the future. It is now. It is this breath. It is the quiet presence watching your thoughts. It is the love that never left, even when you did. It is the God within you, not far above, but deeply here. And from this place, you begin to live differently. You speak with more intention. You move with more grace. You choose not from fear, but from clarity, not to prove, but to express. You are no longer trying to win life. You are dancing with it. This dance has no winner. It has no goal. It is the expression of truth in motion, the celebration of presence, the embodiment of soul. And it becomes available the moment you release the idea that something is missing. So release it now. Let go of the story. Let go of the chase. Let go of the illusion that your enoughness lies in some distant version of you. You already have everything you need. Not because you are done evolving, but because your essence has never been incomplete. And now finally, you are ready to live from that place. You are ready not because the world has changed, but because you have. Because something in you, something ancient and silent, has stirred awake and whispered, enough. Enough of the striving, enough of the masks, enough of abandoning yourself in pursuit of an idea that was never yours to begin with. You are ready because the pain of pretending has become heavier than the fear of being seen. And so you begin to live with more honesty, not just in your words, but in your energy. You no longer say yes when your soul is screaming no. You no longer stay where you must dim your light to be accepted. You no longer sacrifice your truth for approval. Not out of rebellion, but out of reverence. Reverence for the sacred within you that can no longer be denied. This reverence becomes your compass. It leads you not by logic, but by alignment. It guides you to places, to people, to purposes that match your frequency. And the more you trust it, the more life begins to unfold, not as a battle to be won, but as a gift to be received. You stop pushing against the current. You stop hustling for worth. You begin to flow not with passivity, but with presence. Presence is power. Not the power to control, but the power to create from truth. It is the power that comes when you no longer betray yourself, when your inner and outer worlds are no longer at war, when your actions rise from the stillness within rather than the fear without. And from this stillness, you begin to remember your true nature, not as a personality, but as a presence, not as a performer, but as a vessel, not as a seeker, but as the sought. You are not here to get something from life. You are here to bring something to it. Something only you can offer when you are rooted in your enoughness. What you bring is not your resume, your image, your accolades. What you bring is your energy, your intention, your presence, your capacity to be real in a world addicted to pretending. Your willingness to love without conditions, to serve without agenda, to speak without fear. This is the soul in motion. This is truth in action. This is freedom, not the absence of difficulty, but the absence of self-abandonment. And in this freedom, you begin to realize that joy is not a reward. It is your natural state when you are no longer chasing life, but dancing with it. The dance is not choreographed. It does not follow the rules of the mind. It is felt, not planned. It is lived, not strategized. And the music only begins when you are willing to be fully here, not in the story of who you were, not in the anxiety of who you might become, but in the deep breath of this exact moment. This breath is holy. This moment is enough. This being, your being, is already whole. And from this knowing, your life becomes a sacred expression, not of trying to be something, but of remembering what you already are. So let yourself remember the stillness beneath the noise. Remember the love beneath the fear. Remember the light beneath the story. You do not need to add anything to yourself to be worthy. You only need to peel away the illusion that told you otherwise. And as you peel, as you soften, as you surrender, you return. You return to yourself. You return to the place where nothing is missing. You return to the truth that you already have everything you need. And from that place, all things become possible. And when all things become possible, not through the might of your striving, but through the clarity of your being, life ceases to be a burden to carry and becomes a miracle to behold. You no longer measure your worth in tasks completed or standards met, but in how open your heart remains, how true your voice becomes, how gentle you are with yourself when you falter. You understand now that the soul doesn't move in straight lines, it spirals, it returns, it deepens. And every return is not a regression, but a rerouting. Every loop is another layer shedding, another truth remembered. You begin to move through the world like water soft, yet unstoppable. You let go of needing to be understood because you have come home to understanding yourself. You let go of needing to be seen because you now walk in the light of your own presence. You let go of needing to be validated because your own breath has become your teacher, your guide, your sanctuary. You are no longer in search of the next thing to fill you. You are in the practice of noticing what has always been full. And in this noticing, there is beauty. Beauty in the mundane, beauty in the imperfect, beauty in the pauses between plans. The sky becomes a message, the breeze a blessing. A stranger's glance, a silent affirmation that we are all walking each other home. You stop needing life to shout to believe it is sacred. You hear its whispers in everything. You stop asking for signs and start realizing that everything is a sign, every moment, every interaction, every breath, a divine reminder that you are not lost, you are not late, you are not lacking. There is a quiet confidence that rises when you no longer outsource your power. You stop seeking experts to tell you who you are. You stop collecting opinions to build an identity. You stop waiting for permission to be free. You trust your own soul as the highest authority. You let your intuition lead not as a rebellious act, but as a return to natural order. You don't reject guidance. You just remember that the most sacred guidance comes from within. And from this place, your relationships change, not because others change, but because you no longer enter them from emptiness. You no longer try to be chosen. You no longer shapeshift for safety. You no longer confuse attachment with love. You bring your whole self present, rooted, unapologetic, and in doing so, you create space for others to do the same. The connection deepens, or it falls away. And either way, you remain whole. You see now that letting go is not loss, it is alignment. It is the shedding of all that was built on forgetting, all that was born from fear. And in its place, something ancient blooms, a presence that needs no defense, a peace that does not demand conditions, a joy that rises without reason. This is the state of being that changes everything, not through force, but through frequency. The world around you begins to mirror your internal shift, not because you willed it, but because you aligned with what has always been real. Abundance flows, not because you grasped it, but because you finally stopped resisting your own worthiness. Love flows, not because you earned it, but because you became it. Clarity arises not from overthinking, but from stillness. You see now that the universe is not outside you, it is responding to you, reflecting you, expressing through you. And so you let go of the narrative that life owes you something. You let go of the bitterness that came from unmet expectations. You let go of the pressure to always be more, always do more, always reach higher, because now you know what you are is not a destination, it is a presence. And in that presence, everything is already here. You already have everything you need. You always did. And now you believe it. And in this belief, a sacred silence begins to settle within you, not the silence of absence, but the silence of fullness. The kind of silence that doesn't seek to be filled because it already contains everything. You feel it in your bones, in your breath, in the space between thoughts. This is not stillness as a pause, it is stillness as power. It is the quiet unwavering center from which all truth arises. You begin to speak less, but say more. You listen not to reply, but to understand. You act not to achieve, but to express. Your life becomes an extension of your essence, not a performance crafted to gain favor. You realize that simplicity is not lack, it is clarity. And clarity is the gateway to depth, to freedom, to connection that requires no explanation. The ego, once so loud, begins to dissolve without a fight. It does not need to be destroyed. It simply loses relevance in the presence of truth. Its voice becomes softer, its stories transparent. You begin to recognize its fear as a relic of survival, no longer necessary in the light of your awakening, and so you thank it without believing it. You honor its role without obeying its commands. Now your decisions are born not from scarcity, but from knowing. You no longer ask, what will they think, but instead, what is true for me? You no longer wait for signs that you are enough. You move as someone who remembers the truth cannot be undone by opinion. This is what it means to live from within, to allow the internal compass to guide you even when the path is uncertain, even when the world does not yet understand. And slowly, your very energy becomes a sanctuary. People feel peace in your presence, not because you have all the answers, but because you are no longer at war with yourself. You radiate a quiet joy that doesn't require conditions. You hold space for others not by fixing, but by being. And in your being, others begin to remember their own. This is the ripple of remembrance. This is the light that spreads without trying. You do not need to preach it, you only need to live it, because authenticity is the most powerful transmission. A soul aligned with its own enoughness becomes medicine in a world starving for truth. And yet you remain humble, because the soul does not need titles, it does not seek applause. It only seeks presence, it only longs to be lived. And when you live it, even in the quietest ways, you fulfill a purpose deeper than words. You become the embodiment of a truth that can only be felt, that we are already whole, already free, already complete. You do not need to do more to be worthy of this life. You only need to open your hands and receive what was never withheld. The beauty, the love, the wisdom, the grace. It is not arriving tomorrow. It is here, now, always. And so, beloved soul, you come to the end that is not an ending, but a great beginning, not a conclusion, but a return. A return to the truth that was whispered at your first breath and never stopped echoing beneath the noise. You already have everything you need, not because you finally earned it, not because life has finally agreed, but because the source of life has always been within you, quietly pulsing, eternally waiting for your remembrance. You look around now with different eyes, the same sky but deeper, the same faces but more sacred, the same steps but grounded in peace. Because you no longer move through the world with a wound to fill, you move as one who carries light, and not a borrowed light, not a conditional light, but your own, the light of presence, the light of self-trust, the light of divine belonging. You are no longer chasing your reflection in other people's approval. You are no longer chasing your future like it holds your salvation. You have stopped running, not because you have given up, but because you have arrived. Arrived in this moment, arrived in your body, arrived in the temple of now where your soul finally gets to exhale. And with that exhale, you drop the weight of shoulds, the weight of roles, the weight of stories that said you were not yet there. You lay them down like worn garments, and you walk barefoot into the sacredness of this breath. And this breath holds the whole universe. This breath reminds you that you are not separate, not forgotten, not behind. You are home. You begin to live not to get somewhere, but to feel something. You begin to speak not to be right, but to be real. You begin to give not to be loved, but because love has become the language of your being. There is no longer a gap between who you are and how you live. The inner world and the outer world have begun to mirror each other, not because life became perfect, but because you stopped needing it to be. And in this space, sacred, silent, surrendered, the miracle occurs. Life begins to flow through you with ease, not the ease of passivity, but the ease of alignment. The ease that comes when you are no longer rowing against the current of your own soul. The ease that says, I trust myself, I trust life, I trust that I am held by something far greater than my fears. This trust becomes your foundation, this trust becomes your prayer, and from this trust your life unfolds not as a performance but as a poem. Each moment a verse, each breath a blessing. Each encounter a sacred exchange in the great remembering. And now you know, not as theory, but as embodiment, that nothing was ever missing. You were never incomplete. The treasure was not buried far away. It was always here, in your breath, in your being, in the stillness between your thoughts. You were never meant to chase the light. You were meant to remember you are the light. So live now, not as someone trying to become, but as someone who remembers. Walk as if your feet are holy. Speak as if your words are sacred. Love as if you have nothing to lose. Because you don't. You already have everything. Everything that matters, everything that's real, everything that awakens, heals, connects, and liberates. You already have everything you need. And now,